Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to today's session on renewable energy and gender nexus, a situation analysis from Bangladesh, hosted by Manusher Jono Foundation, MJF. I'm Tanzan Kibriya Labunno, Deputy Manager Male at the MJF, and will be your moderator for today's session. Our Executive Director, Shahin Arma Appa, was supposed to be present in this session. However, due to a prior engagement, she is traveling outside the country and she is en route, so she is unable to join us today. So on behalf of our Executive Director and Manusher Jono Foundation, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for being present to today's session. In today's session, we'll explore the gender dimensions of renewable energy in Bangladesh, focusing on women's participation, the policy framework, and the opportunities for empowerment in the renewable energy sector. We will hear from our esteemed speakers throughout the session and engage in interactive discussions. We have with our very own Bonusri Mitra Niyogi, Director Program from MGF, will present her keynote discussion. Additionally, we have the privilege of hearing from our esteemed panelist, Tasnuga Zaman, Youth, Gender and Social Inclusion Specialist, Directorate, and Celia Garcia Banos, Program Officer, International Renewable Energy Agency. We also have experience sharing session with Sharmin Sobhan, Upazila Coordinator, Abhash Borishal, and Jannatul Mawa, Executive Director, Bindu, Nari Unnayan Shangothon, Satkhira. So without further delay, let's dive into the first segment for a brief introduction to MJF and some of its primary areas of work. For this, I would like to invite Ahsanul Wahed, Deputy Program Manager, MJF. Mr. Ahsan is a climate change expert with 15 years of experience. His works focus on promoting locally adaptation and improving community resilience to climate change impacts. His expertise includes the implementation of social accountability tools and evidence-based advocacy to ensure that duty bearers are responsive to the needs of communities. Ahsan Bhai, I would love to open the floor for you.
Thank you, Lavana. Am I audible?
Ahsan Bhai, we cannot hear you.
Am I audible?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all from Bangladesh. Actually, I have been asked to talk about the MJF. Before going to the session, I would like to say a few words about Manusher Jono Foundation and its work. Actually, Manusher Jono Foundation is one of the largest national grant-making organization working in the field of good governance and working in the field of good governance and human rights. It has established in 2002. After the establishment, it has started its works. Since now, it has partnered with 400 of NGOs from Bangladesh through almost 700 projects. In climate change field, we have started our work at the end of 2016. And now we have 3 programs on climate change with the Embassy of Sweden, UN Women, and the Tara Foundation. Now we have the largest program with the Embassy of Sweden, that is the KRIA project. From KRIA project, actually, we are focusing on women empowerment through actually addressing the climate impacts in climate vulnerable areas, and also the gender-based violence of those areas. So that project also focuses on climate justice and the gender justice. And the another project we have on women and energy. Actually, women empowerment and energy project actually focusing on women access to the renewable energy. Through this project, we are actually advocating with the policymakers to ease the access of women to the renewable energy. Today, actually, we have heard we will heard about our experience, the situation of Bangladesh, about the women inclusion in the renewable energy sector, and the potentials. How can we actually include them in the energy sector? So this is all about from me. Thank you very much, Labunapa. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Asan Bhai, for your opening lines. And next, we will go to Bonusri Mitra Niyogi, Director Program, Manusher Jono Foundation, to deliver her keynote speech on today's topic and set the tone for today's discussion. Bonusri Mitra Niyogi is a development practitioner with over 33 years of experience promoting gender mainstreaming, combating violence against women, protecting women's rights, climate change impact, and advocating for human rights for marginalized and socially excluded individuals. She also played a key role in enacting laws that protect women's rights, such as the Hindu Marriage Registration Act and Domestic Violence Prevention and Protection Act. She is also currently leading a campaign to recognize unpaid care work in GDP policies. Didi, if you can hear me, you can please start your presentation.
Thank you so much. Very much clear. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Labunno. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Okay. May I share slides first? Then I will start my presentation. Is it okay for everyone?
I can see it, Didi.
Okay. Thank you so much. Hi. Hi again from Bangladesh. It is good afternoon. I hope some of our other colleagues will be joined also from other parts of the globe. So dear panel discussion, grassroots climate actors, guests, audience from different countries, especially Celia from the Abu Dhabi and India from Sanjay. Welcome to all of you in my presentation. Actually, I'm delighted to welcome you to my keynote presentation. As Labun already mentioned, renewable energy and gender nexus situation from Bangladesh. And this is basically based on, I developed it based on the MJ1 of the study, qualitative study. That is the assessment of gender impacts in renewable energy, resources and technologies in Bangladesh. And actually we did it in last year in November, we completed this. And it is also important to mention that, and we all are recognized that renewable energy has become increasingly important due to the climate change and the desire for energy independence. So most of the cases, the more people have come to recognize the effects of climate change, and nations also seek the reduce the reliance of imported fossil fuels. So here I go for my second slide. The reflection of our country grassroots. Actually here, here I want to focus women's face energy challenges due to their traditional roles with greater responsibility for household energy needs. And they have the very limited access to the clean energy, which is worsen the gender inequalities, especially those who are living in the Chor, coastal, Haur, and the hill areas. So they have where the women have lacked the resources, and also the decision-making power is also very poor. So overall, the energy poverty driven by low income and also high energy cost. So further burdens women's time and health and intensify gender inequalities as a whole. So the important thing is here today, the intersections of the renewable energy and the gender empowerment is very crucial topic for Bangladesh. Not only for Bangladesh, it is also true for all over the world. As we face climate change impact, which is definitely we have to promoting the renewable energy, such as solar, wind power, and others options, we have to explore that. And that can may reduce our carbon footprint and enhance sustainability. So here I try to highlight the global energy crisis, stating that over 1 billion people lack access to electricity, and nearby 3 billion people rely on solid fuel for cooking and heating. So ultimately, it has significant consequences for their health, productivity, quality of life, educational opportunities. So it is emphasizes the potential of renewable energy as a solution, offering reliable, affordable, and environment-friendly options. We can explore that. So renewable energy benefits can benefit community by powering services, creating jobs, and also reducing greenhouse gas emission, which is very important for all of us actually. So where we are actually in Bangladesh, gender reintegration within the renewable energy sector remains underdeveloped. So women, both urban and poor, urban and rural, but also especially in the rural areas, face barriers accessing energy and are underrepresented in the energy decision making process. However, if we see the transition to a lower carbon society by 2050, true renewable energy offers opportunity to empower women. So we have to expanding women's participation to enhance energy access for economic growth, supporting a more equitable low carbon transition, which can mitigate climate change and enhance the gender equity in the renewable energy landscape through gender responsive policies. So this slide, actually, the whole content of my presentation, I will explain one by one of all of this because my entire presentation will focus how Bangladesh is moving forward a sustainable future and its actual status, where gender reintegration in the renewable energy sector is crucial to ensuring that the transition benefits everyone equally. So it is very difficult and tough one also, sorry. And the renewable sector holds here immense potential to drive gender equality, yet women's participation as consumers, employees, entrepreneurs, practitioners, policymakers remains limited. That is very crucial and very vulnerable situation in our country. So what we can do to unlock these renewable energy potentials is vital to prioritize gender mainstreaming and empower women to lead the transition towards the sustainable energy future. So let's see how the secondary documents review finds a brief, because my whole presentation is based on our secondary study. So what are the gender issue caused the current power mix? Here, I try to highlight the gender-related issues resulting from Bangladesh reliance on fossil fuels. Actually, this dependency has led a significant gender implication due to the varying energy uses, roles, needs, and limitations for men and women. And there is no doubt fossil fuel exploration and exploitation disproportionately impacted on women, which exacerbating the inequalities, hindering their access to energy and resources. So most of the cases, the fossil fuels deepen the gender inequality, imposes health risk, and discourages women's participation in the energy sector. Don't be bored. Actually, all of my slides, I try to focus on the gender perspective and the renewable energy sections. So here I tried to find 4 interconnected areas like well-being, individual, policy, and workforce. So these key 4 areas are relevant to the renewable energy. Maybe there are some others, but I tried to focus on 4 at this moment. So whenever we talked about the well-being, it emphasizes the importance of the access to clean and reliable energy, which affects health, education, economic opportunities, particularly for the women. It highlights the role of the renewable energy sector in addressing these disparities. And for the individual level, I tried to focus on household energy use, participation in the decision-making process, and efficient energy consumption, where women play a significant role. The third one is workforce diversity, which is a crucial factor, noting that women make 54.3% of the total population, and stressing the need for gender inclusion to ensure diverse participation. And finally, the policy sections, which is underlines that gender inclusive policies are essential to achieving renewable energy development targets, as non-inclusive policies could hinder progress. And my next slide is about why renewable energy is important and why do women need the renewable energy. So for these questions, I believe actually it is also essential for increasing energy access and security, reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, achieving climate change mitigation and adaptation goals holds greater significance for women's health, quality life, water, air pollution, everything part of this, and for providing energy micro enterprise, thereby fostering their economic empowerment also associated with this. Bangladesh has the opportunity to lower its carbon footprint and hence its resilience to the growth threat to climate shocks. So we have to mind it. This session is about clean energy and creating a more equitable, resilient society, especially for the women. This is the one of the slide, the governance and the leadership related to that. Let's take a closer look at the current state of gender. 1 second, please. Take a look at the closer like that, where the current state of gender equality in governance and leadership within the renewable energy sector is very poor, where we collected the data from the power division and the energy of mineral resources division. What the picture we can see that really calls for the reflection and action is highly needed. Let's see the indicators for the gender points. The low representation highlights the need of concrete action to increase the number of percentage of the women in leadership roles, management teams. Gender points of entry policy making can be leveraged by aiming to increase representation of women in the board and in the key decision-making roles. The situation is slightly better in the energy and mineral resource division, where 23.4% of the workforce is female, with 25 women out of 107 employees. But the power division secretariat, of the 899 employees, only 19 are women, making a mere 2.1% of the workforce. This is very, very poor. And finally, focusing when we see the Sustainable Renewable Energy Development Authority, SREDA, the data shows the female participation rate 16.6, while there is a female chairperson and 1 female member in the governing board. Women remain underrepresented in assistant director roles when men currently hold all 8 positions. So how we can move forward? So we have to create a more equitable, inclusive governance structures in these critical sectors. It is essential to prioritize increasing the presence of women in leadership decision-making positions. This is not only promotes gender equality, but also strengthen the sector with the diverse perspective. This is also a little bit complicated. I will not go through the all line-to-line issues, but the data presents a clear disparity between male and female employees, highlighting a significant gender gap in this sector. While male representation dominates across various levels of employment, the participation of women remains notably very low. So this gender imbalance underscores the need of the targets, interventions, and policies to promote a gender equity, ensuring that women are not only represented, but also empowered to contribute to the critical sector of the national development. So how to bridging this gap, which is essential to fostering inclusive growth and harnessing the full potential of our workforce, which is need to rethink again and again. And this slide actually focuses the cycle of affecting women participation in the energy. So this where I try to highlight the gendered impact on women's participation in this energy sector, and which is also reflecting disproportionately affect women, creating a cycle of perpetuates inequalities, hinders their involvement in the energy sector. Something is going on outside. Are you also hear the same? Sorry for that. So this slide is actually renewable energy capacity data based on 2023, where solar, wind, and energy dominate on grid sources, while biogas and biomass are primarily utilized of off-grid electricity generation. Hydropower contributes a modest amount of the overall renewable energy capacity, where the total renewable energy capacity in 2023 was approximately 961 megawatts, which is significantly portion coming from the on-grid sources. So when we see the data, I think it is also the part of the data poverty, which is prevalent everywhere. And when it comes to gender disaggregated data, it exacerbates the data poverty more and more deepen. But this is the reality. Here I tried to draw a diagram which is related to the sustainable development and renewable energy. So how it could be. There is an interconnected benefits of renewable energy. It highlights the positive impacts on social, economic, and environment aspects of sustainable development. So where the renewable energy contributes to reducing poverty, improving quality of life, enhancing air and water quality, and providing a sense of security through better lighting facilities. Economically, it's promote growths and also economically created job creation and reduce other liabilities, utilities, everything. On the other hand, environmentally, renewable energy helps limit greenhouse gas emission, reduce hazardous waste, and mitigate air and water pollutions. Overall, the slide emphasizes the significant role of renewable energy and achieving sustainable development. That can be one of the best option to reduce on all over that. This slide presents a comprehensive overview of the gender inclusion in gender-related policies in Bangladesh. Here, I tried to analyze various energy policies from 2004 to 2024, assessing their mention on women's energy needs, integration of gender mainstreaming, and specific actions taken to address gender-related issues. So the analysis part is that some policies have addressed women energy needs and integrated gender mainstreaming. There is still room for improvement in terms of implementing concrete action and ensuring that women benefit from the energy-related initiatives, which is also important. And so how we can address women's energy needs in the policy? Though it seems like sounds very common, but the highlights include promote women-friendly industries, removing employment barriers, supporting maternity, childcare, enhancing female literacy, increasing women's participation in skill development and formal sector jobs, establishing rural training institutes for technical education, emphasis women's involvement in technical fields. Most of the cases, we also have the information that a very low or poor number of students or girls are going for the STEM education. This is also one of the barriers to easy access of this energy sector. However, it is also important to note that our national water development policy in 2011 does not specifically mention gender needs, energy needs, and also indicating a potential gap addressing these critical areas. I don't want to go through this slide. Actually, I want to skip this. This is mainly focus on the how many policies we have related to energy development plans, climate policies, gender policies, and what is about the gender national budget, which we try to say the gender responsive budget. So I skipped that line to line, this one. But this is also important, which I also mentioned in my second or third slide, the integration of gender perspective, where women as consumers, as practitioners, and also as policymakers. So whenever we try to draw this framework for integrating gender perspective, it's outlined the some key interventions, including enhancing women access to renewable energy, improving their affordability, ensuring access to services, informations, and increasing their awareness renewable energy options. And second one, the policies, gender inclusive policies that must be investment schemes. That is also part of the gender responsive budget. Supportive mechanisms that may be support for the women's participation in the decision-making process. So ultimately, this framework may help to aim the women's empowerment and promote meaningful participation in the renewable energy sector. We have to go long way still now. So this is mainly about the barriers or challenges we face in this sector. I tried to present the comprehensive overview of the factors limiting women's longevity in the renewable energy sector. It identifies the 3 categories of the barriers: initial hurdles, we can also say entry barriers, the factors limiting longevity barriers, like sometimes we define it as retention barriers. So initial hurdles include societal norms and gender roles, lack of required skills, qualifications, limited mobility and safety concerns, perception of unsuitability, and also the access to information gaps. For the why women cannot stay long time, so what we found here, that it encompasses the work-family balance struggles. This is called work balance life. Inadequate support systems, limited career advancement, inadequate policies, and wage gap also important. At the same time, there is no role models, lack of representation in leadership roles, limiting networking opportunities, limited access of training development, gender bias, cultural, social norms, everything are part of this. And whenever we talked about the glass ceilings, it is also very important, the backlashing, all the issues are affecting, hindering the women progress and leadership in the renewable energy sector. It is not only for the renewable energy sector, all over the sectors, this glass ceiling creating barriers for women's social, economic, cultural, political, every advancement. This class ceiling is very, everything we know, at the same time, we cannot do anything. Maybe step by step we are advancing, and we are hopeful about that. And this is the other slide where we try to outline the results area and corresponding actions promote women's entry, retention, and promotion within the sector. So this framework focuses on increasing the number of the percentage of women's employee, particularly in the management supervisory role, as well as technical positions. And additionally, this is also address barriers to retention women's and promoting by providing opportunities, long-term engagement, and career advancement. How we can address this? So we have to provide a roadmap for organizations and to foster the more inclusive, equitable workforce work for the women and also the renewable energy sector. And definitely now I am always trying to focus on the renewable energy sector because today's our subject is renewable energy sectors, but it is true for all the other sectors also, education, social, economic, and political, everywhere. This is very true. And this one part of the strategies part, I am very close to the end. So here, try to prioritize women's access to renewable energy resources, promote the leadership sector, strengthening gender equality in decision-making process, need the appropriate concrete plan and budget allocation, highlight women's role in driving socioeconomic development through renewable energy access, which is very important, and also developing gender-sensitive policies, supporting women entrepreneurs, ensuring gender consideration, renewable energy policies, promoting partnership between government and the private sector, civil society, and to advance gender equality in the energy sector. So this is the few strategic points, and here are some limitations. We also need to mention, as I mentioned, it is qualitative study. So the study limitations is very clear. So I don't want to go line to line, as it's already half an hour I took. So the one of the main thing I must mention, the focus women energy in the STEM fields. It is very important to ensure the access women, and especially those who will be leading in the near future. I think, thank you. And this is the main three we can call it to forward as call for action. Strengthen multi-stakeholder partnership to ensure gender-responsive renewable energy solutions. Number 2, develop inclusive policies that empower women in the energy sector. And third one, the collective efforts towards a sustainable and gender equitable just transition in Bangladesh. And thank you all. Sorry, I took a little bit more time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonushridi, for such a comprehensive and informative keynote presentation. It was really eye-opening for so many areas. If anybody has any sort of questions, I would request them to wait for the open discussion session at the end, where you can share your thoughts or ask any questions you want. As Didi has mentioned, we are running behind our time a little bit. So I will quickly move to the next segment, and we will hear from Sharmin Sobhan, Upajela Coordinator, Abhash, Borishal. Ms. Sharmin is currently working on disaster risk reduction with Abhash. Alongside, Ms. Sharmin has 10 years of experience in the development sector, focusing on areas such as climate, energy, maternal health, school health, adolescent development, child protection, women's empowerment, and community mobilization. Today, she will be sharing her observations on how traditional energy systems and norms influence time poverty, unpaid care work, and domestic violence in women, especially those who are living in the remote areas. Sharmin Appa, you can please start.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon to all. I'd like to thank Manushyabjana Foundation for inviting me to share local experience on measures of women in relation to limited access to renewable energy, and also for taking this important discussion. Using traditional stove for cooking in rural areas of Bangladesh is a common practice due not having access to renewable and clean energy. Women from rural Bangladesh, especially Borishal area, spent a substantial time for collecting, processing fuel, wood, and cooking for her family. Further, in monsoon and during disaster period, they face huge hurdles in managing fuel, wood, and cooking for her family. It increases her burden of unpaid care work, and women cannot engage themselves in productive work or even cannot take rest properly. Sometimes women face domestic violence by her intimate partners or family members due to failing completion of domestic responsibilities on time. However, the engagement also restricts her in taking proper care of their children. In this context, access to renewable energy by women can reduce their burden for unpaid care work and save time that further allows them to engage in productive work and allows them to contribute to their family income. Moreover, women's engagement in income activities significantly improves their acceptance within the family by enhancing their social status. Challenging traditional gender norms alerting family dynamics towards quality, providing educational opportunities for future generations, and fostering overall empowerment despite existing challenges. Thank you all.
Thank you, Appa. Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. Now I'd like to invite our first panel discussant, Tasnuva Zaman. She is working as Youth, Gender and Social Inclusion Specialist in Tetra Tech. Ms. Tasnuva has been working as gender specialist for 14 years, focusing on gender mainstream in sectors such as energy, food security, health, and education. She is an active member of the National NGO's Gender Working Group in Bangladesh and led the network Girls Not Brides Bangladesh. I request her to share her expert perspective on today's issues. Appa, if you can hear me, and please start.
Yes. Thank you, Appa. Thank you, Manusher Jonno Foundation, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you, Ms. Bonasri, for the fantastic presentation. It covers all the angles of women in energy sector in Bangladesh, from policy to participation to challenges, all the aspects. As I'm working in the energy sector since last few years, from my experience, I would like to share some of my experiences which might help for further advancement of the project. So one of the area I would like to start with, that governance in the energy sector, and from the presentation we saw that the participation is very low. With not only governance but also employment in energy sector is very low. It's below 10%. So if we want to increase women's participation in energy governance, we need to increase women's participation in energy employment. And interestingly, here I have experienced some of the mechanism issues going on here, that all the energy related organizations, especially the government organizations under power division, they are very much interested to increase their percentage of women employees, but they are not getting enough application from the women for when they open up some circulars. And even in the interview, the fewer number participants and majority of women don't qualify in the very basic, the written interview. So that's why they cannot hire. So I am also working with universities, and there I saw a interesting phenomena, that in the engineering universities, mechanical and electrical are the subjects where the lowest percentage of girls are enrolling. Especially in the universities outside Dhaka, the percentage of girls studying these technical subjects is very low. And inside the universities, the girls who are studying in this technical subject, majority of them are willing to move outside country because they don't see a good job market for them. Because in the power sector, inside in Dhaka city, there are limited positions. Major of the employment opportunities are in the plants, in the substations, and in the district and regional offices. But these girls who are studying in the universities of Dhaka, like it could be BUET, it could be other private universities, Dhaka University, whatever. I have interviewed girls from different universities, and all of them kind of shared that they think that outside Dhaka is very remote. So that place is might not be suitable for girls to live, to have a job, and also their family might not allow them to move outside Dhaka for a job. And that's the reason they don't even apply when they see the circular. That is one of the reason, the percentage of female participant applying for the job openings in the energy sector. And another phenomena is most of the organization publish their circular in their own website, not the generic job sites. That's why in many cases, girls don't even know about the circular, and they have a particular interview system where men or boys have their own mechanism and socialism from through their social life to connected with people who are already working, connected with senior batches of students who are working in different organizations. So they have so the boys has better preparation for the interviews compared to the girls, and that's why in the actual interview they are doing better. So there are several phenomena for that. I think university, it should be start from school level. From school level, girls should be encouraged to take technical subject, to take challenging jobs. Universities should take initiative to enroll more female students in this kind of technical subjects, and also they should organize several events and information sharing platforms so that girl can be not only study within the university and get better CGPAs, but also have practical knowledge to compete in the practical job field, and also feel encouraged to join there. So that's some mechanism universities or education institutions should take. And also I have also worked with many private sector organizations, and interestingly, I observed that in many of the private sector directors or the senior level officials, they intentionally don't hire women for the power plants or for the outside head office, because they think that if they hire a woman there, they have burden to make further infrastructural mechanism like daycare system, women's security could be an concern, and they think even if they ensure all these things, when women will get married, have children, they won't be interested to work on the plant or outside Dhaka. They would prefer to stay with family in Dhaka. So they will leave the job or change the job. So it's a loss project to hire a woman. It's a better if they hire a man and train a man. So this is another mechanism. So we have to find out to overcome this challenge from both sides, that women need to be encouraged to work outside Dhaka, and also we have to work with the social issues which are discouraging women or the families to allow women to work outside Dhaka. It's I'm saying that families to allow, because considering in Bangladesh context, still girls are not being able to take their own decisions. In majority of the cases, their decision being highly influenced by the family background. And so this is one area, and information flow. And I have also worked with energy entrepreneurship. Renewable energy entrepreneurship is something new, as women are not studying in this subject that much compared to the boys. There are very few women who are really doing business on renewable energy products or this kind of business. So we should encourage more women, and also work with financer and the other organization to support women and entrepreneurs to join in this subject. This is something I talked about the challenges, and now I would like to talk about the opportunities. Renewables energy is something, if we ensure access to women to this kind of energies, women can be benefited in many ways. Especially if I see from the productive work, if a woman is participating in agricultural work, renewable energy have several mechanisms, several technologies, advanced level technologies, which can increase their production. For example, for household base, a small scale of solar water pump can ensure their water supply for the household based agriculture, livestock rearing, and also it helps them. This water supply can help them to make their reproductive work easier, their cleaning and other activities easier, so that they can have more time. And if we can ensure solar-based street lamps, and the area has proper light, then it can increase women's mobility. They can participate more in productive works. If a women have a small shop or a stall, if there is a solar-based light and fan, they can open their shop for longer period of time and they can make more profit. So in this way, having access in renewable energy can increase women's income. And also there are many other technologies like solar dryer, solar fish dryer can help a community of women for year-long dry fish production for the coastal belt of Bangladesh. And for wash project, solar-based water purifying solutions and the other can help a lot, because for now grid-based energy is expensive, and also the availability and accessibility is challenging, and the challenge is increasing in the current context. We saw that load shedding have started recently again, and we know at this currently we are facing challenge to ensure 24-hour electricity supply, so that we have to think about the alternative energy system. It could be solar home system, it could be solar based or other technologies, biogas, because livestock rearing is a very common practice in our rural Bangladesh. So community-based livestock rearing creates an opportunity for a biogas production, which can be used for cooking purpose and other purpose, and also it could be a good source of natural fertilizer. So there are so many alternative ways, alternative technologies. Yes, I am closing now.
Request you to
yes.
just yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I am saying, that we have to think about in different ways, from social aspect to economic aspect, how we can increase women's accessibility to renewable energy, and also women's participation in energy related professions. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Tasnova. I can really understand the topic that we're discussing today is so elaborate, and there's so many aspects to talk about that we sometimes get carried away. But it's been very insightful, whatever you said, and it's very relatable. Especially personally speaking, I can relate. Being a woman in engineering, I can relate how the way you describe, from the study to the job areas. So thank you for that. Thank you, Tasnova, for your wonderful presentation. We are slightly running behind time, so I would request everyone to complete your presentation or your discussion within the given time limit. It would save us some time for the open discussion, where I hope and I believe that we have a lot to discuss. So moving on to the next experience sharing session. And I would like to welcome Jannatul Mawa, Executive Director, Bindu Nari Unnayan Sangothan, Satkhira. Ms. Jannatul Mawa is a prominent youth activist who is also recognized for her work in preventing child marriage and advocating for women's rights. For her contribution, she has received numerous awards, including the Hypatia International Award and Joita Award. Since 2019, she is also leading a movement called Sunday for Women to advocate for women's rights to minimize the impacts of climate change on their lives and livelihoods. Appa, if you could please take the floor.
Thank you so much. My name is Jannatul Mawa. I am from Satkhira, Bangladesh, and all of you know that Satkhira is one of the climate vulnerable area in Bangladesh. And every year we are facing different type of disasters such as cyclone, floods, salinities, water crisis, water logging, and sea water rising. Those disaster affected us, and the women are most affected all the disaster. As a Bangladeshi, you know that all over the world are shouting for climate mitigation. While we are not the climate emitter, but it is also our responsibility to mitigate the carbon dioxide around the world. And if I talk about the renewable energy using in our community, that the government, NGOs, INGOs, 2-3 decades. They are supporting, they are trained how to use renewable energy, and the community is start to use renewable energy. But if you compare with another energies, that the level is not same. It is less than other renewable energies. And one thing that, if I talk about women, participation in those areas, that access in technology, reveal a lot of gaps, like, that access in of technologies, like, that entrepreneurships, skill development, training, all those areas that women participation is less than other areas. And that there is a lot of training session happens in the remote area, but all those areas that women are not, too much build their capacities to work in renewable energies. And I, as a woman, and that I live in the grassroots area, I also, used to cook in the that solid wood fuel. So my experience is it that it harm your, the smokes, that you feel uncomfort your eyes, and you feel like, that if you have asthma or allergies, it is difficult to use those. And a lot of studies show that 73.3% women in the rural area, they are related with, that wood, solid wood fuel they are cooking. And the study also shows that the increase of low birth weight and cesarean and that complication of deliveries happen, like use those that cooking of wood fuel. So as a woman and a grassroots activist, that we are talking about is, I think that is like indices and all those says a lot of in carbon mitigation. So now advocating, it's very important, and women participation in all those stages is very important, and it is time to ensure women voices loud and clear. And that women, not only women participation, women skill, women finance, and all this is very important for our sustainable future, for women, for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jannatappa. You have such a strong voice. I can really understand why you got so many awards. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Now we will hear from our second panel discussant, Celia Garcia Banyos, Program Officer, Policy, Gender and Socioeconomics, International Renewable Energy Agency in Abu Dhabi. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Ms. Celia is a chemical engineer with expertise in renewable energy policy and socioeconomic impact. As a program officer at the International Renewable Energy Agency, she focuses on producing authoritative renewable energy data and identifying best practices to ensure an inclusive global energy transition. We are very much eager to hear her perspective on today's issue. Ms. Celia, if you can please take the floor.
Thank you so much, Tonsin. And thank you for including Irina in this very interesting discussion and in this very, very important topic. For those who may not know Irina, we are the International Renewable Energy Agency. We are an intergovernmental organization with close to global membership. And our main mission is to promote renewable energies, but not at any cost, but by putting people at the center. And people, of course, include women. So that's why it's so important that we dedicate a series of reports and a work stream to analyze what is the role of women in the sector per se, what are the opportunities, but also what are the challenges to learn how to fight them. In that sense, I want to start explaining a little bit the rationale of our work. Mentioned that we started over 10 years ago, more than a decade already, to analyze what was the contributions to the employment and to the workforce in the different technologies of renewable energy. But again, speaking about how many jobs are being created in renewable energy was not enough. And we started to ask questions, sometimes uncomfortable, questions on the quality of these jobs, on the geographical distribution of these jobs, on the pay range of these jobs, and as well on how many women were occupying these jobs. So that's why we started some analysis that could try or aim to quantify the number of women or the share of women in the sector. We started with the first report for the overall renewable energy, where the figure 32% that some of you may have heard came across. And as a follow-up, we have been doing reports on first the wind sector, that first in a lower way in terms of women participating in the sector with a 21% of the share, and the solar PV that performs slightly better than the overall renewable energy at the 40% of the share. This being said, renewable energy seems to be doing unequally and unbalanced depending on the technology, but overall it is faring better than the traditional oil and gas. Unfortunately, it's still faring lower than the economy-wide participation of women in the workforce. And this is important to know, and this is important to discuss, not only on what and how many jobs are women or how many overall positions women are holding, but also what type of positions are we occupying in the sector. I think Banasri and other panelists have already commented it on the importance of encouraging Tasnuva, I think as well, mentioned how STEM education has lower participation of women, and it's not just as the education per se, but also in these jobs, as we can see in this slide, in all the technologies analyzed, women in STEM have a much lower participation than those that is administration. This would not be a problem per se, but we all know that administrative jobs have a lower paid generally because of the lower responsibilities, but also lower decision-making and lower inputs to make actual change. So this is also why it's important to dedicate some time to speak about this. Likewise, in senior managerial positions and management positions, the participation of women is painfully low. In some instances, like in the wind energy sector, senior management barely accounted for 8%, not even a 10% of the full workforce. Solar PV, again, seems to be faring a little bit better, but senior management position is still under 20%. So it's almost anecdotal. And this is something that has to change, because the less women in policy making, in responsibility positions, in decision-making positions, the less of role model implications will have for the youth and women of the future. So this is something that it is critical that we should change. In that sense, our work has also come to analyze the barriers. I think a lot of the conversations today have focused on this. I'm not talking about Bangladesh perspective, I'm talking about the global perspective, because the collection, the data that we have collected has been globally. But I think it is very well aligned with what has been discussed, meaning that the issues that women face are not country-specific or technology-specific, as we will see. These barriers are basically generic, and we all struggle with them, with perception of gender roles and cultural and social norms prevailing above all barriers that have been highlighted, which again, this requires a lot of systemic change, and it is a very slow process to change, but altogether with initiatives like today, we can contribute to change what is this perception of what a woman should do, what a woman should be. Prevailing hiring practices and bias into hiring has been flagged across the different technologies as a very important barrier as well. And it is also trickling to other aspects, such as the lack of awareness of opportunities and the self-perception of women who consider, because of society pressing, family pressing, against the idea of, for example, women participating in STEM, of women participating in the energy sector, that they get discouraged to even apply to educational profiles that will be utilized in the renewable energy sector later on. When we talk about retention in those years, particularly for women in childbearing years, the barriers that have been highlighted is especially critical in terms of lack of fairness and transparency in internal policies, meaning that because of the lack of this transparency and the lack of fairness, women have been penalized for having childbearing responsibilities, but also, and I think this is also has been highlighted in both Banasri and Tasnuba have mentioned it, the lack of remote work or the difficulties for mobility and the perception that women should not change the cities have been playing a major role in these particular years. So also, as highlighted, the number of women in leadership positions is very low, and this is why we also ask what are the barriers to advancement. And everywhere we ask glass ceiling, and again, which is driven by cultural and social norms, has been highlighted as the major issue. But again, lack of flexibility in the workplace or lack of mentorship opportunities has also been highlighted, which is something that in this case can be changed, because mentorship opportunities and mentorship and networking events such as this one can help push the needle towards equality. I think it's also important to highlight that we have also worked in analyzing what are the barriers to participation of women in the decentralized renewable energy context, especially for areas with limited access to electricity or that is still expanding. And again, some of these, the barriers that were highlighted was mostly cultural and social norms, again, with an equal asset of ownership, lack of skills and training, specifically for women, being highlighted as a major issue. We can see also the regional distribution. So I think it is important to highlight how, for example, cultural social norms first higher in some regions than in others compared to the lack of skills, etc. So this is also important to note in order to put policies in place, especially for one region or another. But particularly as it is important with the overall renewable energy, decentralized can create a lot of employment opportunities along the value chain. Again, as Nuva was mentioning, this is important to highlight. This is important to let women know that there's a lot of opportunities for us in the renewable energy sector. And it is particularly true for the decentralized or in the access context, where women can be critical and key in the consultation and planning, especially with women's ability to be more comfortable accessing households from the neighbors. It is probably easier for a woman to get in with a level of trust that compared to a man. Construction is also a segment of the value chain in decentralized that can allow women to participate. Also the operation and maintenance duties, and very importantly as well, development and productive uses of energy, which that's the reason why we should always also have some gender lens to encourage entrepreneurship for women. Just to finalize, gender in the energy transition is critical. There's a skill shortage already in place, but this gap is only going to be increasing as the transition unfolds. So women make not only a fairness case, but also economic sense. And to ensure that women are integrated at all levels, there's a few policies that we recommend to take into account. First of all, mainstreaming gender in the energy sector frameworks at all levels. The first step is gathering and reporting gender disaggregated data, but also the fact that there's a gender lens in every program, in every policy, across the different ministries, across every law and every policy regulated in a country. It is critical. Tailoring training and skills development, this is also very critical. The women need to have the training strength and the opportunities, but also this can also include networks and support systems for mentorship programs as well. we need to ensure that women are attracted and retained in the sector through policies. Again, educational policies are critical. And we all together need to challenge the cultural social norms, and women can be agents of change in this transformation. Just to finalize, and because our work comes from a global survey that we conduct, I want to leave here in this screen the access to a new survey that we're conducting, and I would be very grateful if we get a high level of participation from Bangladesh, so we can at some point have even national statistics from this perspective. Thank you very much again for including me, and I'm available for questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Celia, for your valuable insights and information. Your wider perspective from this global point of view is highly appreciated. Thank you for joining with us today. We are moving to the next segment. There was supposed to be another panel discussion by Sanjay Vashisht, Director of Climate Action Network South Asia. However, due to an unavoidable circumstances, he is unable to join with us. So we will skip to the next segment, which is the open discussion session. And this is our opportunity to ask questions, share our suggestion, or any other insights that we may have on this topic. And you are requested to raise your hand to share your questions or suggestion. And you can also write down your concerns in the chat box and question answer box. So the floor is open for everyone. Please raise your hand and ask question. And the session will be facilitated by me and Bonusriti.
Lavanya, you lead.
Sure.
I am with you. No problem.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, please.
So is there any question from anyone? Or is there any suggestion or concerns that you want to share with us? Can everyone hear me? Like, was my voice clear?
It is.
Yes, Lavanapa, we can hear you.
Thank you for letting me know.
Or any suggestions,
Yeah.
any statements, all are welcome.
Celia, at the very beginning, I saw your hand. Was there any questions or anything that you wanted to share?
No, apologies. I think that was my
Oh.
screen playing tricks on me. But I'm
Okay.
happy to see, I would say that I think we all have been so clear in our presentations and in our messages that I guess nobody has any reaction to it.
That's maybe one of the
Yeah, one of the interpretation.
Anyone can also share their experience at the grassroots level, what they are facing, or
Yes.
any other areas challenges like renewable energy related to the women's entrepreneurs. That can be shared. That will also enrich our understanding, learnings, everything. You are most welcome in any language, no problem.
Okay, I think we have a question in the chat box. It's Hasib Khan I'm from Pakistan. He wrote, how can gender balance can play a role to mitigate climate injustice, light of renewable energy sector, especially? Any good practices you want to share?
I think, Celia, do you have any experience globally you can share so that we can also enlighten on this?
Sure. I mean, I think this is actually important to say because I don't know how, or better say, it's not just about justice per se, it's also that climate change and the environmental adverse situations are actually also impacting more women. So it is more critical to have this gender lens more than ever, because again, women are being directly affected for this. That being said, and also through the renewable energy sector in special, there's a lot that it can be done. Because that will have a trickle down this as a consequence into having both gender and climate justice after all. And many examples from bottom down to top up approaches can be implemented. I think it is important to say, for example, that the lack of representation, and this is what I tried to say in my presentation, of women in high-level positions, not only in the renewable energy sector, but also in the policy setting. So as political parliaments, Congress, etc., having a representative that is a woman is more likely to have an effect on change and that benefit women, because first of all, that becomes a role model. It gets the cultural social norm on what is the perception of what is the role of a woman in that sense changes by the example per se, but also it's more susceptible to have the gender lens in mind when approving policies or when pushing for any program. So I think that could be a very, very good example. In that sense, quotas can give a very, very good start for this. But of course, that can only not come just as a quota to increase the number of women in political representation or in technical roles. It also has to come with a proper education and training opportunities. So there's also plenty examples across the world where ensuring that the training is either targeting women to participate or that the way that the syllabus is presented to make it gender neutral, to do not create a bias on perception for a woman to apply can also have that impact. Something else that I would like to mention is that this exercise, especially in terms of education, is not just about university. That starts very early stages. If you start segregating the classes and creating a difference between girls and boys at an early stage, that may make little girls believe that they should not be focusing on STEM careers because there's no role for them or there's not place for them. That will, of course, have an impact in that sense. So for that, I think education is important at all levels, and I think the more education the younger generations get, the better, because they will be not only the leaders of the future, they will also be the parents of the future. So they will also reinforce that idea within the next generations to come. So I would just highlight this, and I will leave the floor for anybody else who wants to chip in.
Yeah, nothing new. Actually, you very clearly described that. Yes, I also this should be very integrated, and it is one of the interconnected issue. For the social, cultural, political, economic, everything are associated with this. And it is very deep-rooted, one of the social problem, and that's why the gender division of labor still exists. Ultimately, whenever we talked about the gender issue, the gender division of labor, one of the root causes, until we cannot remove this balance, will be very tough, and always it will be complex and also difficult. So that's why we are always talking about our collective initiatives and change the mindset all over the social system and structures is important here. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia, and also Bonusriti for sharing your perspective on the matter asked. There's another comment on the chat box from Shamim DRRA. He mentioned solar panels and lithium batteries should be tax-free, thus renewable energy could be accessible to all people of Bangladesh. It can also reduce the dependency on LPG for cooking at household. carbon emissions can be reduced in a vast scale because low-cost inverter electric burner are available. Yes, I mean,
comment.
of course, yeah, it's a comment. Thank you for sharing your thought, Mr. Shamim. Shomadi, our program manager, MJF, has shared another comment. She said, multidimensional energy poverty is greater for women than men in rural Bangladesh. Women are unable to participate meaningfully in pertinent decision-making. How to raise it and change it? So she asked a question. So if anybody wants to address that, please.
I think she has the answer. It should start from the very childhood and within our own family. And also definitely the multidimensional energy poverty, it is like that. It is not started when we are very child age, but whenever now we are, definitely we have some roles to change the mindset. The energy poverty and women's involvement, it is not only the rural women and men, but all over the Bangladesh, rural, urban, slum. And whenever if we integrate the other intersections of people, like the most marginalized communities, person with disabilities, the sexual orientation people, other minority groups, religious minority, every marginalized women are facing this meaningful participation in this decision-making process. So to my understanding, it should start from the very family level, and from the childhood, we have to change the mindset. Otherwise, it will not be possible to change anything, and meaningful participation, it will be very tough. So we are struggling, still struggling.
Just to top up, if I have a few seconds, I fully agree with Manasri, and this goes in line with what we were commenting in the previous question, but particularly in the setting of rural or in the rural setting for every country, because I don't have the particular experience for Bangladesh, it is important to make women understand that they have or they can have ownership of the energy decisions, because at the end of the day, they're most likely to be the users as well. So that empowering them to have at least the knowledge of saying you can have the decision of what energy service you could provide, or for your own household, that is the first step. I think practitioners in general are doing a great job to integrate this community engagement dimension within in rural settings. So I think this is something that needs to be taking that approach, as I mentioned, from the bottom up, so communities can benefit on it. And I think a great example, there's plenty programs across the world, but a great example is by also empowering the older generations, not only the girls, as we have mentioned, that is critical because they are going to be the ones who will rule the world in the future, but also older generation, older women who are most likely to stay in the community after all, because it has been proven that when training is provided for adult men, if they have, especially or particularly in renewable energy, when they have the chance, they take that knowledge and go to the city to get a better job or to get another opportunity. While if it's a woman, they are more likely to stay in the community. So again, this can be a cycle to ensure that not only women are empowered from within the sector, but also it will result into contributions to the community, which will have a different self-perception of themselves because they will see themselves as more empowered with an actual role and benefit in the community, but also the community will see the results of that contribution. So that will reinforce the idea of women are critical and important. So I would say that agree with what Ashri, that also starts within us, but also at the community level. I think it is important that these sort of initiatives are put in place to ensure that everybody benefits.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. We have another comment in the chat box. It's shared by Gitika Tripura, PC from Khagrapur Mohila Kolyan Shumiti, KMKS, Khagrachari Hill District. She said, Chittagong Hill Tracks are still not well aware of this project, so more work is needed to promote this issue.
Okay, this is one of the process to start invite all and share our experience actually from MGF side. And this is our first stepping stone to review the secondary documents first, and then we have going for the next planning. Definitely we'll involve with you if we have the interest on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi, for responding to that. I think that you're not having any more questions or comments, so we can move on to the conclusion of today's session. If Bonusriti, what you think? I mean, if you allow me.
So are you thinking? Are you talking about to thank you all like that to close the session?
Yeah, like I was thinking whether to end this question answer discussion. So I think there's no more questions coming or any other comments coming. So we are also at the very end of our allotted time.
Right.
So before concluding this whole event, I would request everyone to turn on their video so that we can take a group photographs. Who's clicking the photo, by the way?